So, okay, so thank you very much once more for taking the time to be part of this session. So today I want to talk about the issue of retirement, which is one of the broad subjects. This one is very broad. So also checking on my time, what I've decided, I decided that I will lay a lot of foundation for this year. Then next year I'll cover in terms of building, because most of these subjects you don't teach them and go away. You teach them and follow up later and see how one is progressing. So when it comes to the issue of retirement, according to the data, they say only 10 to 2% of individuals that are prepared for retirement in our country. And one of the reasons I believe is that many people are not taught about retirement, because you find out that in your workplace there are some guys who are coming in, they say they are coming to present the retirement, and then they'll teach you things based on what they're selling. And then at the end of the day, you say to yourself, I've learned about retirement. While others, they don't even have those kind of people coming to their workplace, but they have some schemes which they are deducting a certain amount in their income in the name of preparing for retirement. But when you deal with retirement planning, it must correspond with the reality of where you are and where are you heading. So there are certain questions which one has to deal with, and also the some things that one needs also to understand. So we differ also. We also have people who we classify them as self-employed people, and we have those who are employed by other employers. So even the self-employed people, they are still in that verge where they have to prepare for their own retirement, because for them, whatever business that are doing, there will be a time where they won't be able to run those businesses, because physically you become tired, and then you can't be able to focus as you used to focus. So whether you're employed by an employer or you're self-employed, you need to find an alternative on planning how you're going to live life after stepping away from your current job or whatever that bring income in your pocket. So now I will just lay a foundation, and you must feel free also to ask me questions. If there are some things which are more technically, you'll just reflect that this part I don't, or I didn't get it, then I will definitely reflect to you. So when it comes to retirement plan, we have these three things which I find them key. Um, the first one is the effective annual cost, which is called the EAC. And then we have what we call the average return annually and the replacement ratio. So today I will be focusing much on the EAC, the effective annual cost. The replacement ratio is also a broad subject. I'll bring it. Then I'll focus on EAC and the average return annually. Sorry. So these are the two things that I will I'll be focusing on. So I don't know. Before I proceed, I just want to check: is there anyone amongst us who's having a scheme that is deducting a certain amount every month pertaining his or her retirement?
Mm.
Okay,
I
can
only
say
have the one from work.
you have one from work.
Mm.
Okay, so how often do you check the balance?
I haven't checked because I am new where I am. I'm only going to be 1 year in September. So I said I
Okay,
would check in like the mid of September.
okay. So one of the key things that you need to check is to check your EAC, because your EAC plays a huge role in that investment. You'll understand it when now I drop it down. So okay, let me bring it here. Okay, so what's key in terms of understanding investments is the effects that fees have on your investment. So this one is not only applicable to retirement. You know, most of the time I hear people saying we have invested with Old Mutual, but Old Mutual has robbed us. What affects most of the time your investment with such companies is the fees that sometimes they don't um, explain to you fully. So at the end of the day, even if they can say, yeah, your investment, the return on investment, it will be 8% annual. But because of the effects of the fees in that investment, the 8% cannot be fixed because the 8% must be shared around the fees which are applied there. I'm gonna share also three effects that are built around the EAC. So when you do any investment, even if it's not retirement investment, we have to understand the fees, even the hidden costs, because you will be surprised at the end of the term that your investment is contradictory to what you have been expecting. And most of the time, we don't read our contracts through. We just find a space where they say sign here, and then you sign in that space. So there is no need for you to rush to sign. What you need to do is to understand how this thing is being built so that you'll be able to sign up for something that you understand. So the interest, as you know, that interest is either is working against you or it works for you. And there are some factors also which you need to factor with when it comes to things like retirement planning, because you can factor, if you factor only with the interest rate, then you are missing the point, because there is a factor of inflation. So let's say for an example, you say now I'm sorted with an investment that is 8%. So this 8%, you do your calculation maybe with your financial planner to say, I'm planning to retire after 20 years, and say after 20 years is the X amount. So if you don't factor with inflation, because the same thing that you're buying today at 5 rand, you won't be buying it in the next 20 years. So the factor of inflation plays a major role. But the factor of inflation also becomes difficult to calculate, because you have to play around assumptions that in the period of this year to this year, this is how inflation was looking in the country, and then this period to this period, this is how. So you are just guessing around. So you won't be 100% accurate when it comes to guessing the issue of inflation, because you don't know what will happen next. And with these wars that are looming left and right, you won't predict the issue of inflation. So, but this is one of the major factors that you also need to factor with when it comes to planning for your retirement. So most of the people, they don't factor with that. They just only look at the interest and also the amount. Let's say for an example, to say I'm aiming to have 20 million for my retirement. But you have to factor inflation, which inflation is also to carry the buying power, because your money should not be measured by numbers where you say I have 20 million, and then you say I'm sorted. It should be measured by its value, which the value cannot be measured by just numbers. It is measured by the buying power. So it's a question of, oh, what is the buying power of 20 million in the current time where we are is 2026? What is the buying power of 20 million? And then that calculation will give me a bit of a closure to say, if the buying power of 20 million is 15 million, then what will be the buying power of 20 million in the next 20 years? And then if in the next 20 years the buying power of 20 million will be 10 million, then it means the inflation will be high. And then the question will be, what will be the alternative for me? Am I going to reduce my lifestyle with my lifestyle expectations, or am I going to have a plan to add another stream of income to sustain that? Because this thing of retirement planning, guys, this is one part where you don't retire to plan. retirement planning start from the first day you start to work. For others, is something that they can say, okay, I had an advantage that my parents prepared this for me. But for all of us who are here, unfortunately, none of us, our parents prepared for us in terms of retirement. But we can do that, as I've said, that we can open RAs for our children and the stuff goes like that. But talking about our own realities, that the issue of preparing for retirement, it starts the day you start to work, and it does not stop there. It's a continuous thing because there are a lot of adjustments that needs to be done along the process. Life expectations also change, responsibility also change. So now and then you have to sit down with your planner to say this have changed, or this is the direction which I'm taking. So you set up goals to say, if I want to retire at the age of 40, this is my current balance in terms of retirement planning, and then this is the type of assets which I'm owning. Then you plan from there. But as time goes, things change. You have to sit down again and then start to plan again. Like most of the time, if the Reserve Bank announce some changes, then you have to go back again to the drawing board with your planner to say, since the Reserve Bank have changed, then what's our next move? Then the planner will say, we have to adjust. It's either we adjust in a sense of we decrease the type of lifestyle in terms of the lifestyle that you're planning to live, or we have to find an alternative to add another stream of income which can match that kind of lifestyle which you are suggesting to live. Because all of us will be living a certain lifestyle in certain environments with certain expectations, and all those things will demand money, and the question is, where will the money coming from? So there must be some different sources which will be able to supply for those needs. And for those who are living in estates, it's another thing because there will be some costs which you will have to be paying for the rest of your life. That even if you are no longer there, the people who you are going to leave behind, they will still have to sustain those expenses. So now it's very critical that when you think of retirement, you don't think of you sitting down somewhere and then just having money. You think of this thing in a broader context. And one of the critical things in terms of answering the questions of retirement is, what kind of lifestyle are you planning to live? And it's another thing because now you can say to me, this is the kind of lifestyle which you are planning to live, but I think after some 5 to 10 years, you can change to say, okay, I'm no longer planning to live this kind of lifestyle, I'm planning to live this kind of lifestyle. So my suggestion to you, as we are all of us heading to that direction, the first thing which is so critical is that never go to retirement with any debt. Never, because that's the thing that affects most of the people, that they want to plan, I mean, they want to enjoy their retirement, but because they have some debts, whatever they have been building, it must first pay those debts, and then you discover that it won't be enough to sustain them. One of the questions which I've come across when I was studying these big entities regarding retirement, they said, according to that research, um they have asked many people this question of say, what if you happen to live beyond 80? What will happen? And then they discover that majority of the people, if they happen to live beyond 60, they will not have anything in their pockets because their retirement will be exhausted between. And the other thing which is a challenge in the country is the issue of the unemployment rate. So but the South African the South African research suggests that one individual who is in retirement, his income is taking care of 8 people. So this is one of the challenges that we are still dealing with in a country where you discover that by the time someone supposed to be responsible and independent is still dependent, not purposefully or intentionally, but because of the state of the country, they are still dependent on their parents, they are still dependent or whoever who is providing for them, they are still dependent on them. So it becomes an issue. So you ask yourself that if I have 7 people and I'm becoming the 8th one who are depending on one income, And then that one income is also subjected to something which is called a replacement ratio, which a replacement ratio affects many people, especially people who are not being taught about a replacement ratio, because the replacement ratio is a percentage which they are going to put when you go to retirement. You won't be receiving 100% of your income. You'll be receiving maybe 60, 75, depending on how they're going to measure it. So the replacement ratio, if my annual income is 400,000, then they say I'm going to receive 60% of 400,000. And I'm going to go there to say, what is the 60% of 400,000? And then after getting the 60% of 400,000, I have to break it down again, say what, and then that amount now I divide it by 12 months, because the contribution will be done monthly. Then I go down to check to say, okay, in a monthly basis, this is what I'm going to be receiving. Then I get it from that point to say, if it's like this, if I'm earning 30,000 a month, then after this I'm going to be to earn around 13,000. And then the question is, am I ready to live in such state where I'm now earning 13,000 a month? And the question whether yes or no is determined by the kind of responsibilities which I have on the table. Hence, I need to make sure that I tackle all the major things. I make sure that all the major things are being removed on the table. So most of the people in retirement, they can't afford to buy cars. They can decide to, but they can't afford to buy cars, because when you check out their income, it cannot be equal to buying the car and also maintaining the car, because there is one part of buying the car, there's another part of maintaining the car. So you discover that these guys, when they go to their retirement, they have to live with whatever cars that they have, if they still have to keep that money in a long process, and if they want to afford to take care of the responsibilities which are having on a table. And as far as I've said, it is also a factor of what's on your table and what's on your shoulders. So if you still have to cover some people who are depending on you, you still have to cover your medical aid and also some insurances, it becomes a burden, because as I've said, if I'm earning 30,000, now I'm subjected to 13,000. All those things, I can't cover them if I decide to add a car on top of that. So I have to decide from that point to say, what are the things which I don't want to go with when I go to retirement? What are the major things which I need to tackle early? Hence, now when we teach financial literacy, so we always emphasize this to kids to say, you have to start as young as possible, because when you start as a young person, it gives you a lot of advantages to fail. Because no matter what you do in the process, will definitely fail. So even when you fail, you have a lot of time to learn, because failing is not something that it's like as if you, it's not a curse. Failing is another viewpoint, or it's another transition of learning things in a new perspective. We just call it failure, but that thing is a transition of learning things in another perspective. So we always put these young people say start early, and most of the time, when young people start their new careers, they focus on wrong things. And when they focus on wrong things, they mess up. And then they'll spend a lot of years trying to sort out that mess. And then when now you come to the table to say, this is financial literacy, guys, this is how things work. Now they start to be confused to say, then how do I reverse all those mistakes, and discover that there is no reversing those mistakes. So now, because I'm talking with old people, I can't go to those ones as if I'm talking with young people. What you have to do is to find alternatives to eliminate the big objects, that when you go to retirement, you don't carry any big objects. So for an example, if you have some dependents who are depending on you, you can also find an alternative to say, what kind of stream that I can build for these guys? Or if I can't predict the state of the country after my daughter graduates. But I can say, okay, if my daughter graduates after this year, and then let me build a stream of income that is sustainable, and it's able to heal something every month. so that if she happens to graduate and she's not working, if she decide to work, to go to the industry and work, if she's not working, she'll have something to sustain her. Or if I have siblings, because it differs, as I've said, our story differs. We have people who also have siblings and family members that are fully dependent on them in a space where they don't have any income. You are the one who have to provide the income. And it's a question of how do then I also factor on these guys that if I go to retirement, I can't afford to feed them and also feed my own family at the other hand. Then what is my plan to tackle such issue? And then that's why you said, okay, I can't carry this burden. I need to create a stream of income that can be sustainable to take care of them, or anything else that can help you to deal with such things. So you make sure that you then carry all these big burdens when you go to retirement. If you are still paying a bond, you make sure that you set some goals to say, I want to settle this bond. If you have some big debts, you make sure that I have to tackle these debts, that I don't go to retirement with any debt. I'm settled. So anything that I'm going to be receiving on retirement, it won't be soldiering against bigger objects. It's all about normal day-to-day stuff. It's all about the kind of lifestyle which I'll be living. So it becomes flexible for you to enjoy a retirement, because to tell you the truth, many people are not enjoying their retirement. They are stressed out because the kind of income that they are getting is no longer the same as they used to get, and they were not prepared to adjust around the new reality. So we have to take care of such things before you go to retirement. And you have to decide around the kind of place, a place that you want to live, the kind of lifestyle that you want to live, and the type of things that you want to spend your time doing during a retirement. These are the factors that now help us to have a closure of how much do you assume you are going to need in terms of retirement. But never forgetting again, guys, that we factor the how much we factor it based also on the issue of the inflation, because the inflation plays a major role. If the inflation is high, then the value of money goes down. We can carry a lot of papers here which are not making sense, like what's happening in countries like Zimbabwe or Nigeria. They speak millions, and when they say million naira, you'll think, oh, these guys have a lot of money. But when you look at the value, that million naira is not making sense at all. So we also count the factor of the issue of inflation. So in terms of the effects of fees in a retirement, we have something that we call fund performance, which we compare it with net investment returns. Let me just explain it, and I think okay, I'll grind around two things today, not to be in a hurry. So when you speak of fund performance, the fund performance reflects the total returns generated by the underlying investment fund, which can vary based on the market trends and the effectiveness of the fund strategy. So the fees associated with managing your investment, such as management, performance, and administration fee, do not directly influence fund performance, but do reduce the returns you receive. So what remains after deducting the fees is known as net investment return. So when you look at the fund performance, it reflects the total returns generated by the kind of investment that you are holding. But this is something that is before all the deductions, because those guys will be in charge of your investment. You will have to deal with them in terms of management and administration fees. So all these now combine to say, okay, my investment is doing well. For an example, it's crucial for you to always check the performance of your investment in terms of your pension fund every year, to check the balance, to know how much you're having, because knowing how much you're having gives you a closure of what does it take to get that goal that I'm aiming, or to get to that goal that I'm aiming to reach. So you need to make sure that you go there and check, okay, how much is my pension fund worth. So but you don't just check the performance, but you also consider the factor of fees, which we call them, like you have to check the management fees, you have to check the administration fees. So for an example, let's say you have an investment of 100,000 in a fund with 8% annual return. So you'll expect to earn 8,000. However, if your provider charges 1% fee, that 1% fee will take 1,000 and then on your return. So instead of 8, then you are going to get the 7. So eh, then in such a state, we didn't factor inflation. We only factor the what is so called, we only factor the admin fees. So now let's factor the admin fees plus the inflation. So in that 7,000, let's say the inflation, the average is 3% per year. So the real value of your return, it will be 4,000. But when you look it in paper, it's 8%. But now when you factor with the issues of admin fees and the issues of the inflation, then the value of your money is less. So when you plan around these realities. You don't eliminate these realities. You plan around them because you have to understand, and okay, how does inflation affect my investment? So the inflation part and also the admin part, they play a major role in terms of your investment. So you play around these numbers and you say, okay, if it's this amount, okay, the total return in terms of investment is 8%, but I have to factor the admin fees, which is, well, just I give an example of 1%, it can be more than that. And then you calculate the total, you check, okay, this is the total. Okay, this total, it does make a sense. I'm still on the right track, or I'm not in the right track, then that's why you're able to adjust and see how you go. So let me just put another example of understanding these things of admin fees or the EAC. So okay, I just check other notes. Okay, so the in terms of the EAC, if you want your retirement to work for you, you need to choose a scheme that is offering a maximum. If we say your EAC is high, your EAC should not exceed 1%. Your annual EAC must not exceed 1%. So you get something maybe of 0.75%, then you have a good investment. Anything that is above 1% is too much for retirement. In fact, if you have retirement annuity which is above 1% in terms of EAC, maybe let's say it's 2%, you must know that it's working against you, is negative. So the minimum is always from 0, the maximum is 3% according to the South African law. So the maximum of EAC according to the South African law is 3%. So but just imagine if I have an EAC of 3%. So it means my pension retirement is working against me, it's not working for me. So here I was just punching out just simple examples or simple comparisons. So say let's say you have an EAC of 3% and then you contribute 2,000 per month in a period of 40 years. So the average return is 13% and then the average inflation is 6%. So even the average of 13%, I was just playing around because it's difficult to find that in our country. So at the end of the period of 40 years, this is the total which you are going to get, the 2.3. And when you look at the other side where the EAC is 1%, the amount is still the same, the period is the same, the average return and inflation is the same. But what makes a difference is the EAC, because you see here the total will be 3.9. So the EAC it's like that small mouse in the house that always cut off those important things, and then your shoe, your favorite shoe, your favorite sneaker, and then when you check it now, there's a bit of a hole there. So the EAC, and most of the people, they don't check the EAC, and the EAC is there in your statement. So when you check your statement, because you must request your statement. So you must request your statement and be able to check your EAC. Remember, guys, we should not play the game of guessing. Like, I guess who I am. Like, I have to guess. Maybe I am maybe I am okay. I mean, I think I get it. Most of the time, we count our contribution based on how much you're contribution monthly. I mean, I'm contributing monthly to say if I'm contributing 3,000. When I'm sitting, I think this year I'm sitting around 200K. But it does not remain a raw 200K. It's its own investment. Those guys, they can't take your money and keep it. It will be a stupid things because money must rotate. So they have to invest your money, but the question, where is it invested? How is it performing? So where is it like the place where it invested? Does it match the kind of goals that you are aiming at? So that's why I say we should not play the spooky pooky game here, the guessing game. We should be we should be aware of, okay, here my money, here's my money, and then the total of my investment is worth this. And then the reality is that when I calculate the total and put the inflation, add the inflation, because it's simple now, you add the inflation. If let's say now my current investment in terms of retirement, I'm sitting on 1.5 million, I have to factor inflation, and then okay, say this is inflation, and then factor some admin fees if I'm using a certain entity to do the work for me. So I check all those things. So when we continue in the same topic of retirement, I will also share, I think, four entities that I know that can offer retirement planning that is less than 1%. Because I said the maximum should be 1% if you want your retirement to be working for you instead of working against you. So anything that is above 1% is something that is working against you. So the fees, they are the key elements here. So you don't choose to say, okay, maybe my friend is using this certain company. Because my friend has chosen this company, I'm also going to go to this company. You have to factor on this. So whenever, if you are going to decide to get any retirement scheme, I'm requesting that please ask them what will be the EAC, and then when they tell you, you must make sure that when they give you the contract, you also check on the contract that what they told you is the reality of what is written on paper, so that you'll be able to know that okay, I've committed myself to this, and I'm ready for this. So don't choose something in the name of saying I'm also going to say to people I have a retirement plan. You need to choose something which is going to work for you, because at the end of the day, we don't choose those things for the sake of having them. We want them to work on our advantage, and want them to serve the purpose in which we are aiming at. So at the end of the day, want to live a life which was going to be a level of what we are aiming, and a life that is suitable to our own standards. We all have our own standards. So the issue is the issue of choosing. So choosing right plays a key role, and choosing right means you have to be informed on what you are engaging yourself to. So because of time, guys, we are having a deadline here on our family business. So we're having a deadline with SARS that by Friday we need to do a certain submission. So I'm working out on I'm auditing a 12 months bank statement which is worth 6 million. So I'm working on that. So I'm trying to catch up with them because I'm only left with today and tomorrow. So I'll have to pause here so that I'll gain some energy to make sure that our numbers are making sense, because we are out of time. So let's continue again with this subject next week, and uh, we'll continue share more and more. As I've said, the issue of retirement is very broad, so we'll share more and more. So I don't know if there is anyone with a question. If you have a question, you can open your mic and ask, then I'll answer you.